We had the final patch of set 6, and I want to show you guys what comps to go for in patch 12.3 for teamfight tactics, and we will be going over how to play each comp, as well as point out which comps work best at whatever rank you're at. So if you're like at Diamond or below Diamond, or in Masters, or above that, when we get to the comp, I'll get into all those little details, but let's just dive right into the summary. We have in the S tier, Yone and Socialite. Socialite, generally they pair Fiora or Kai'Sa, and I feel like these two are the best comps right now because they have a combination of being the most played, plus also having very good average placements. In the A tier, we have Innovators. This is a comp that I feel like rose up a little bit. Chemtech, Urgot, they went down a bit. Syndicates, Arcanists, Snipers, Imperial, and Protector Reroll round out the A tier. Lots of playable comps right now. And then in the B tier, we have a bunch of Reroll builds. Katarina, Tristana, Mutant Malzahar, and Twitch Reroll. And we also have Scrap in between that. And then C tier, you could play these, but they're just like the random comps that are just kind of left over that don't really get that much attention. Before we get into the rest of the video, I want to tell you guys about a PC giveaway on Twitter. Link is down in the description below, but it is open to everyone worldwide and anyone can enter and win. And the more entries that you fill out in the giveaway, the higher chances you have of winning. But scrolling down into the S tier, we have the Yone build. Not much has changed in the past. I've been liking the 4 Academy, 4 Challenger build. Some people go 6 Academy, some people go 6 or 8 Challenger. Obviously, going deeper into Challenger is more popular than going deeper into Academy, just because the stat buff you get from Challenger is more useful for Yone. But if you ever do get an Academy spatula for Fiora, you definitely want to be mixing and matching 4 Academy, 4 Challenger. So with the Yone build, I've noticed that it is better at higher ranks, so the higher up you go, the better this comp is going to be. At lower ranks, it is a little more difficult to play. As for the reason why, I'm not too sure, but I have noticed that this has performed really well in like super high Challenger, and then as it goes down, all the way down to like Diamond, it gets worse and worse in terms of the performance, but it still should be playable as long as you are good at Challengers or are flexing between this comp and the Urgot comp. Next up, we have Socialite Random. This is another comp that is kind of harder to play because a lot of people don't really know how to play around Socialite, because a lot of times people flex between different carries. The primary carry is Fiora because she's a 4 cost, she's much easier to get. If you do manage to get a Kai'Sa, she definitely works really well too, but you don't get Kai'Sa every game, so I'm going to list out a couple of other options. Of course, people do Akali as well. You can mix in Galio for the Clapio build. But essentially, you want to play what's on this board here and add 2 tank units. Popular tanks to add is something like Braum plus Blitzcrank, but it depends on your augments, depends on what traits you have on the board, but this is kind of like a sample build that you can kind of mimic. I'm going on into the A tier, Ice Cream Innovator. This comp is really good if you are trying to get to Masters or are already in Masters. This is where this comp performs the best right now. But essentially, yeah, 5 Innovators is fine. I see 5 Innovators in a lot of late game builds, in a lot of end game builds. It's not that 7 Innovator is bad, it's just hard to get, you know? But this is actually one of the first patches where I see 5 Innovators. Normally I see no Innovators or 7 Innovators. So that is one thing that's interesting to note. But yeah, if you are like high diamonds, low masters, I highly recommend this build. All of these builds that I'm going to mention today, they're going to work at every elo, just because if you get the right start for it, it's going to be good. But I'm just letting you know which tiers they are working even better in. Next up, we have Urgot. This is just the standard Urgot build we've been playing all set. In case you guys missed it, in the set 6.5 preview that I did, we noticed that Urgot is going to be removed from the set. So this is your last chance to play Urgot if you like this comp a lot, because Chemtechs are going to be going through some sort of transformation. So if you really like this build, you definitely have to take advantage of this last week. But essentially, damage items on Urgot, the most important ones I think are Runons and Last Whisper. And then you throw in Jinx and Tahm Kench for your late game. And if you get them to 2-star, throw items on those 2 units as well. The reason why this build is down a bit compared to last week or last patch is because Runons did get a slight nerf. So I feel like it does have like a small hit in that sense, because Urgot definitely was a primary carry. Next up, we have Syndicates. Okay, so all the assassin builds, they are extremely good at diamond and below. I'm guessing it's because a lot of those comps generally are reroll comps, so they are easier to play. Also, a lot of people do not position around assassins, so I think that's why assassin builds are really good to quickly climb with if you're not like quite where you want to be at yet. But the core of this build is re-rolling for Shaco 3-star, really strong. So what you want to do is you play anything in the early game and then transition into Syndicates in the mid game around like stage 3 and stage 4. And then if you get a lot of Shacos, you want to re-roll for Shaco at level 7 to get him to 3-star. If you do not have a lot of copies of Shaco, but you still want to go Syndicate, level up to level 8, try to hit Akali 1-star, and then maybe in some of your lucky games you get her to 2-star and then use her as your carry in those games. But yeah, Syndicate builds and other assassin builds, I find them do really well if you're like diamond and below. Again, they still work at other levels, but I just feel like they especially shine there. Next up we have Arcanist Lux. There's actually one player on EU West, he's only playing Lux. So if you want to like one trick a comp and like only do one comp, there's a guy, he's like I think ranked 6 or 7 in EU West right now, and he legitimately only plays Arcanist Lux. So this comp definitely does have a lot of power, but I feel like you need to be a specialist in the build because he is one of the only people I see playing it, or at least playing it often, that is. So yeah, I guess you could kind of just force this build from the start if you are one of those players who like to just tunnel vision one comps. You could probably do the same with Yone, and you could probably do the same with Urgot, but I feel like this is the strongest one-trick comp right now. Next up, we have Sniper Jhin. Jhin's a little weird. It's pretty balanced across all ratings. I feel like this one is a little bit more difficult because there are a lot of different Jhin boards you can use. The one you see here is just like one of like 5 Jhin boards I could show you guys. And the reason is because Jhin doesn't really need that many synergies to work out. I see a lot of people, they play him with 0 sniper. They go 1 out of 2 sniper and have no sniper buff on Jhin. The only thing they really play is just having like 1 additional clockwork, which is kind of funny. So you just want any sort of front lines. It could be bruisers, it could be bodyguards that we see here. If you have like a good Socialite hex, you could run like Taric as well. You could also run like 5 enchanters. 5 enchanters is another interesting tech in this meta right now. But yeah, it does make it a little more difficult to play, but I've seen Sniper Jhin work pretty much at all elos. But if you want to force something, do not play Sniper Jhin, just as like a quick note. Next up, we have the Imperial, Samira, or Talon reroll, or also Swain we have here. These builds highly change depending on your augments. You want to get to 5 Imperial somehow with like one of the augments obviously, or with the spatula item, because 5 Imperials where they really shine because you could have 2 different carries. Let me rephrase that. It kind of depends on whether you are able to get 2 3-star carries such as Talon and Samira, or like Swain and Samira, or like Swain and Talon, or you have a guy that can actually use the Imperial spatula. So if you're going like Samira reroll, getting like a Yone with the Imperial spatula or a Fiora with an Imperial spatula is probably going to be decent if you are going for the 5 Imperial build. So you always have to kind of adapt to what you play, which makes this comp really deceptive because it's a reroll comp, so it's pretty easy, but once you add in a lot of the spatulas or the augments, you kind of have to use your brain a little bit to find a little bit more direction into what your final team comp will be, because if you guys haven't noticed yet, there are a lot of empty slots on the board right now, so you do have to kind of figure out what roles you are getting naturally and what roles you are not. I'd also have the Swain build here. This one's a little more static of a build, but it's not as good as it was before. I still think Swain is fine, but it's just not as powerful as it was like a week or 2 ago. Next up, we are going to go into the Protector reroll. I've actually seen a resurgence of this comp. That's why I bumped it up to A tier, because in the previous weeks, almost no one was playing Protector reroll. Maybe they're playing it like 1 out of 30 games or something like that, but now I see this comp played maybe 1 out of maybe 15 games, so it like kind of doubled in popularity, at least in my eyes, when I like watch a lot of the top players and I like did my research before making this. It's really dependent on your augments though. You want reroll augments, you want like first aid kit for sure, and you also want like Kogmaw, Caston, or Malzahar items depending on who you're going for as your primary carry. Typically people do Caston and Kogmaw with attack speed items and Caston with tank items. But I've also seen this build done with the standard Mutant Malzahar build, which we'll get into later. But yeah, it's still a decent build. You just need really good starts for it. And I think right now, because they kind of nerfed a lot of the other comps in the past 2 patches, I believe, this comp kind of like came back or like made a comeback. Next up, we have Assassins. They're in the B tier. But again, if you're in like Diamond or below, or like Masters and below, Assassins are dominating everything because no one knows how to deal with 2-star Katarina. And once you get 3-star Katarina, she's obviously going to be even better than the 2-star Katarina. But even if you don't make it there, you're still going to get a lot of top 4s, which I know top 4s, it kind of feels bad because you only get like 10 LP for it. But if you keep doing that, you're going to climb in the long run. So you don't always have to get first place when you play TFT. You could get 3rd, you could get 2nd, just don't go like 7th or 8th and you will generally climb a lot. But this build is like pretty uncontested from what I've been seeing. And yeah, 2-star Katarina in Diamond and below, she is going to be dominating everything. The beautiful thing about this is that you also don't really have to position Katarina. Normally when you play Assassins, you have to position really carefully, but since Katarina jumps to the lowest health person anyways, like her positioning is just a lot less important than most other comps. Going on into the next build, we have Yordle Tristana. This one I see played on and off by like in like super high elo, but then in the middle from like low challenger to like masters, I don't see that many people playing Yordle Tristana. But then below that in like diamond, platinum, and gold, I see this comp come back again. So this build is kind of like a reverse bell curve where it's being played by lower elo and high elo, but not so much people in the middle, at least in like the spectrum that I laid out before from what I was saying. I don't really know the reason why that is the case, but I'm just letting you guys know. So use that knowledge as you wish, but essentially the comp revolves around re-rolling the Yordles, getting Poppy 3-star as your main tank, and then Tristana 3-star as your main damage carry. Just a quick note, you don't need Poppy 3-star, she's kind of optional. You really just need the Tristana 3-star, so like only focus on her. So you generally want to be re-rolling at level 6, unless you're playing 6 Yordles, which I have seen be done, but it's we'll get into that build later. I think it's in the C tier. Next up, we have Mutant Malzahar. Man, this comp itself is really weird because it's just another Kaisa build disguised as a Mutant Malzahar build. So I don't even know if I can actually consider it a Malzahar build because it's only good because you get Kaisa. Even at 1-star, you put a Morellonomicon on her. She puts that healing debuff and damage over time on the entire enemy team. I don't really know if I can consider this a Mutant Malzahar build. Maybe it's a Mutant Kaisa build, even though you're still re-rolling for Malzahar 3-star. But yeah, it's a pretty solid build. This build isn't played so much at super high levels, but it's played everywhere else to pretty good effect. Of course, you're gonna have to play around with your mutant buff, but I kind of did a quick summary here if you wanted to check it out on the website, bunnymuffins.lol/meta. And pretty much, I'm sure you guys already know, I update this meta snapshot every single Friday. So subscribe below and bookmark the page if you have not already. Next up, we have the Scrap build. Jinx is actually like pretty playable now. There are a lot of patches where she was kind of bad. You just played her as a synergy bot because she's both Scrap, Sister, and Twin Shot. So you play her a lot in the Chemtech build. But one thing that I found really weird is that they're actually removing the Sister trait. So this is one of the last times we could actually play Jinx and Vi together, which I guess is kind of sad, bittersweet. I don't really know. I'm surprised there weren't any like funnier names for this type of comp with like Jinx as the primary carry, especially since we are at the tail end of the set. But the main point of this build is getting an early Morellonomicon on Echo. If you do not have that, do not go for this build because you will get destroyed in the mid game if you do not have this item on Echo. Having a static Shiv on Ezreal helps a ton. Just ignore the Jinx items. Only build Jinx items at the very end. You want to focus more on getting components on all your scrap units and of course the Morellonomicon on Echo as we discussed before. I lay out here what like leftover items are good for the scrap bonus on each unit. So if you guys are playing this, just check this out when you are doing so. Next build is the Twitch reroll build. I've actually seen like there's this guy in, I think he's top 4 EU or something like that. He's been playing a bit of Twitch reroll. I think he was just testing it out. I don't think he actually thinks this is a serious build, but I have seen this work really well. I think it was below Diamond where Twitch reroll works pretty well. Just a quick note, since we're here already, I positioned Twitch wrong here. Twitch should be in the center. I'm not sure why he's in the side here, but put Twitch like dead in the middle. The reason why you want it that way is because he will always attack people in a line and getting like, and imagine if Twitch is here and their carries are here, he'll just shoot both of them at once. Whereas if you put him in the corner, he'll have to walk a bit, and sometimes he attacks something else before he gets to the enemy carry. So you always want to put Twitch in the middle. I'll fix this later on. Next build up, we have the C tiers. We're just going to do a speed run for this. Like Heimerdinger carry, blue buff, super important. Pretty much just any other AP items would work on him after that. This build also works with the ice cream build if you are into that stuff. Next up, we have Bruiser Trundle. This is another scrap build. So if you're going the scrap build and you have a lot of Trundles, go ahead and reroll Trundle. I feel like most important items are pretty much these three. I wouldn't say they're mandatory, but they are significantly better than everything else because Bloodthirster for some reason works so well on Trundle. And then QSS is necessary because he's a frontline carry in melee. And then Runon's obviously so he doesn't get stuck on tanks. Next up we have Sniper Misfortune. They did buff this, I believe, 2 patches ago, but it never really picked up, which is a shame because I really do like this build a lot because Misfortune, I don't know, when the set came out, I was spamming a lot of Misfortune builds and I'm sad that it kind of like fell out of favor. But I think rerolls, especially 3-cost rerolls, were never that great in this set. Whereas in other sets they were a little bit stronger. So I think like in the beginning of the set everyone just sucked at playing the game, so we were allowed to play this build, but then everyone went for like fast 8 stuff with Kai'Sa carry because Kai'Sa was too strong, and then this kind of fell out of favor after that. After that, Warwick reroll. Only go for like these reroll builds, guys, if you have like a lot of copies of the units. But yeah, you need Quicksilver on him, and then the other 2 items that are playable are like Rage Blade, Titan's Resolve, and I believe Static Shiv. And then after that, you just want to max out challengers to kind of make him attack really quickly. Yordle Veigar, I don't know why people love this comp so much. I might do like a Yordle only challenge in the next set, we'll see. But when it comes out in like a week and a half, maybe I just do Yordles only and just see how high I can go or something like that. But I do not see this anywhere above like Masters, unless people are doing it like as a joke, or they get like the very like 1 out of 100 game where they are getting like a perfect Yordle start. Like I've never seen this above like Masters, but doesn't mean you can't make it work. But yeah, it's gonna be easier to do it with any other comp. But that is going to be it. I did not update the items this time. I was just too lazy to do it. Sorry about that. Just mainly just because the set is winding down, but hopefully you guys get an idea of what to be playing based on what level you are. And yeah, so just to reiterate, the comps to like kind of one trick this patch are like Arcanist, then Yone, then maybe Urgot in 3rd place. But one thing to note, don't like analyze the tiers that I recommend like too deeply, because at the end of the day, once you're in game, if you get like a really good start for a particular comp, it doesn't matter if it's good in like whatever elo. It like all the SNA tier comps, they're gonna work at every elo, you know? So pay more attention to what the game is giving you rather than like just trying to force something just because I said it is slightly better in Diamond tier rather than like Masters tier, for example, because that's like way too narrow of a way to think about the game. For example, like a lot of people ask me like what the best augments are, and it's like there are augments that lead to higher win rates, but if you are playing on a particular game and like there's this one augment that isn't used that much but it's perfect for your team here, like you just have to take it even though it has like a lower win rate on average compared to the other 2 choices. It's like a lot of stuff in TFT, you just have to like play the game. I know that's like a very simple answer, but yeah, always pay attention to your board more than like tier lists. But that's just like a random thought of the day. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you all later. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to share and subscribe, and of course smash that like button. Each like is an LP I gain before the next video.